Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we're going to be taking a look at the New York Islanders forward depth, as they've got a couple of big contracts on the roster, some guys that may not be returning to the Islanders moving forward. We're going to take a look at some of the young guys, the young guns that could be coming into the New York Islanders maybe next season, maybe in 3 years from now. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at the New York Islanders forward depth. Alright, so before we get too far into this video, just want to give a quick plug to our Instagram and Twitter handles at goalline_hockey, as well as my personal at kevinforte_. Links will be in the description down below. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at the New York Islanders depth chart, specifically on the forward side of things. Now, you look at the Islanders' current roster right now, specifically on the forwards, they are getting a little bit of a makeover. We've seen over the past couple of seasons, since Lou Lamoriello has come into the fold, the Islanders have had to make some changes. And Garth Snow always had issues with their forward group, and that was a problem for the Islanders. Now, Barry Trotz coming in has obviously changed that for the Islanders. He's gotten the most out of his players. Guys like Brock Nelson, guys like Anders Lee, Beauvillier, Ross Johnston, guys that maybe you wouldn't think about, but he's been able to get the most out of those guys. Now, you look at the Islanders' current top six: Anders Lee, Matt Barzal, and Jordan Eberle. Now, I like that. That's a solid first line for the Islanders. Now, they've tried to acquire guys like Mark Stone and Artemi Panarin and guys like that. They haven't been able to get success with bringing in those guys, but you know what? It may be for the better moving forward for the Islanders, and I'll explain why in a minute. Then you've got Anthony Beauvillier, Brock Nelson, and Josh Bailey on the second line. Now, the good thing about that second line is all three of those guys can play center. Now, Anthony Beauvillier has not been known to play center over the past couple of seasons with the Islanders, but he can if he needs to. And Josh Bailey, he can play center as well. So the center depth is solid there for the Islanders. Now you look at the third line. And this is where things get interesting. Now, I don't want to speak about it too much because I obviously don't know all of the details, but Kiefer Bellows, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, as well as Oliver Wahlstrom are the depth chart for the Islanders on that third line. So you've got the youngins line centered by Jean-Gabriel Pageau. So I really like that third line for the Islanders. Kiefer Bellows has had some issues recently with the AHL in terms of substance abuse and performance-enhancing drugs or something like that. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that, but that's just something to keep in mind. So Kiefer Bellows, we don't know the status on Bellows. I'm assuming he's going to be playing in the fall or whenever next season starts, but that's something to keep an eye on there. Meanwhile, you've got Oliver Wahlstrom, who has the potential to be a top six forward in the NHL. So maybe by the end of the season, he moves down a guy like Eberle or Bailey or Beauvillier, or even Kiefer Bellows if he plays well. He's a former top 10 draft pick, so he's another guy. Expect these guys like Wahlstrom and Bellows to move up the roster as the season goes along or into next season. Now, the thing with Wahlstrom to remember, too, is Barry Trotz did not like Wahlstrom's play last season. He had a couple of games up with the Islanders last year at the beginning of the season, and once he got demoted, Barry Trotz kind of railed into Wahlstrom, saying, I don't like his game. I don't like his two-way game. He's not a very defensive-minded player at all. And he sent him back to Bridgeport, and he was exiled there for the rest of the season, quite literally. So that's something that we're going to have to see with Oliver Wahlstrom. Now you look at the fourth line, you've got Michael Dal Colle, Casey Cizikas, and Cal Clutterbuck. Now you may be saying, but you forgot about 17. Yeah, I did, because Matt Martin is not signed by the New York Islanders. Now, there's been rumors that the Islanders are trying to bring back Matt Martin, but as of this point, there's no guarantee that the Islanders have signed him. So the Islanders may have found his replacement, unfortunately, either in Kiefer Bellows or Michael Dal Colle, and they're going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than Matt Martin will be, who is on the free agent market in his prime trying to make some extra money. Actually, he might be past his prime. He's like 33 or 34 years old. So, you know, I don't know if we're going to see Matt Martin return to the New York Islanders. So that would be a disappointment. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's something that the Islanders have to deal with. And you look at that fourth line. I mean, you look at on daily faceoff, they have the Islanders in red for that fourth line. But you know what? It's the grit of that line. You've also got depth guys like Leo Komarov, who could still be in the equation. Now, things change a little bit because Derek Brassard is not returning for the Islanders. But let's be honest, I don't think that's the biggest loss either. And not to mention, you could see Otto Koivula, who played fairly well as a center last year for the Islanders, as well as Cole Bardreau, who we saw a little bit last season. He could even jump into the lineup if they need be. And then looking at the depth, the guys that are in this system. So we already talked about Oliver Wahlstrom. He's only 20 years old. He's from Maine. Former 11th overall pick back in 2018. He played at Boston College as well as Bridgeport over the past couple of seasons. The Islanders' most recent first-round pick in 2019, Simon Holmstrom, who played in the SHL. He's a right winger. He's only 19 years old, the Swedish native, former 23rd overall pick back in 2019 via the New York Islanders. He played in Bridgeport as well as Allsvenskan last season in the 2019-2020 season. Kiefer Bellows, another name, a Edina Prairie native there in Minnesota. He's 22 years old, one of the older guys on this list. He has not gotten to that potential that the Islanders have hoped for. A former 19th overall pick back in 2016. A lot of Boston guys here. BU native. A BU Terrier back in the day, as well as playing in the WHL with the Portland Winterhawks, and most recently, the last couple of seasons in Bridgeport of the American Hockey League. And we look at a more recent guy, a Michigan native, 2018 fifth round pick, 134th overall, left winger, Blade Jenkins. Blade Jenkins has been playing in the OHL with the Saginaw Spirit, who most recently, you may remember the Saginaw Spirit have Cole Perfetti, who he played with this past season in Saginaw. So another name to keep an eye on there in Blade Jenkins. A couple of honorable mentions. You've got Otto Koivula, who is getting a little bit up there in age. I believe he's 23 or 24 years old. So another depth guy for the Islanders, as well as a guy who played with Noah Dobson back in the day with the Acadia Bathurst of the QMJHL, Arno Durando. So that's another guy to keep an eye on as well. But the Islanders have some depth on their forward side of things. So now looking at, Cal Clutterbuck, this is the final year of his contract. Leo Komarov, the Islanders are stuck with that deal, and I'm not happy about it. But now you've got Matt Martin. I mean, the Islanders don't need those guys anymore because they have guys that are cheaper, and let's be honest, they're going to be more reliable in the lineup at this point. So it's disappointing that dynamic line that the Islanders have had in Matt Martin, Cal Clutterbuck, and Casey Cizikas. It looks like it's going to be coming to an end because the Islanders' forward depth that they have been drafting, as much as I don't like Garth Snow, he has done a good job of that. And the Islanders, you know what? They have a couple of guys here now that, let's be honest, they're ready to take that next step. And with the forward depth they have, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that this season. And like I said, with the salaries that they have, they still have to sign Matt Barzal, Ryan Pulock. They're not going to be cheap. So every dollar counts for the Islanders. And even in terms of millions, dollars count. So let me know in the comment section down below. Who do you think will be in the New York Islanders roster that I just mentioned? Wahlstrom, Bellows, Antoine Durando, Blade Jenkins. Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and let's go Isles.